Hello, everybody, and welcome to the channel. So we're going to discuss the departure of Bobby Kotick from Blizzard because we are getting information from behind the scenes sort of coming to light now as to what it was like to work under Bobby and what the developers are sort of feeling going forward into this new Microsoft future. And I think this is going to be a very interesting video because there is this new horizon we've got, this new sort of green pastures we're moving over to with the Microsoft acquisition, and obviously Bobby is no longer at Activision Blizzard. He is gone as of the 29th of December. The big question here will be, will this actually impact the quality of the games? Now, it's been easy in the past to blame Bobby. Bobby's the reason for all of the bad decisions and all of that stuff. Bobby. It was an easy get-out clause. There is one sort of, I guess, to play devil's advocate here against myself, because I do think this is an extremely positive thing for Blizzard, and it's going to sort of unshackle the development team, and they're going to be able to work on stuff now, hopefully more freely. But there is, as I say, to be devil's advocate, there's a small kind of little company called Bungie, and everybody used to blame Bobby Kotick for their poor decisions when they were part of Activision Blizzard. Well, of course, Bungie moved away from that. They became their own independent entity. Then, of course, they've got sort of Sony are invested into the company and I think ended up buying the studio. But basically, they went downhill. And it became very clear that their terrible monetization, the way they were delivering content, a bunch of other issues, that was Bungie. It wasn't Bobby Kotick. So there is a world where that happens to Overwatch 2. I hope that won't happen, and I don't think it will, but I think, we kind of had to throw that out there. So let's get stuck into this. It's going to be a juicy video because there's a lot of stuff to discover and talk about. But firstly, we're going to start with this. Now, this is Andy Belford, who was the community management lead of Overwatch 2 up until recently. He is no longer with the company, and he's not been there for a while, so it's not as if he's just like left yesterday then dropped all this information. It's like, no, he hasn't been at the company for a while. Obviously, though, he was there during a lot of the turmoil of Overwatch 2, and he says this: breaking my silence to share a fun fact. When we planned Overwatch 2's Steam launch, my team warned months in advance that we're going to be review bombed. We begged for more information, more details, and more resources to help us with the anticipated influx, all flatly denied. Now, there are a lot of ways of reading that because Overwatch 2, yes, was review bombed, but also Overwatch 2 was not what it was advertised to be. So I think people were well within their rights to show their displeasure with the way the game went. And of course, Blizzard doesn't allow you to review any of their games on any of their platforms. So the moment this became available on Steam, players obviously used it as a way to get their message across. Now, it must also be said there was a bunch of Chinese negative reviews. I think over like 120,000 at the time. This was obviously because no Blizzard games were available for play in China. So the Blizzard player base, the Blizzard fans in China, were using Overwatch as a kind of scapegoat for all of the other games that were removed from the region. Like World of Warcraft was very popular over there. So yeah, the game needed to be reviewed. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's a product, right? Players are consumers, and if the game isn't what they wanted, the product isn't as it's described, then there's going to be a negative reaction. So there was always going to be a negative review amount. Review bombing would indicate that it's being done just out of spite. And I'm not entirely sure that was the case. Again, it's a complex issue, but I think this is a little bit weird. But I don't think anyone would disagree that, yeah, I mean, it was going to get hit. Anybody could see that. If you told me 6 months ago we're going to put the game on Steam, I'm going to go, yeah, you're going to get hit with loads of negative reviews. Be ready for that. Not review bombing, but you're going to have a lot of negative reviews. How are we going to deal with that? But the other part of the tweet is basically like, he begged for more information, more details, and more resources to help us help with the anticipated influx. Now, there's no way more. You can look at this in a very like sort of ridiculous way and go, it doesn't matter what they were given. It was always going to be negative. Yeah, it was always going to be negative, but they could have been given the ability to talk about future content, future direction, the things that are happening to the game to kind of like soften the blow of this massive negative impact that the game was dealing with. And also this affects morale of the developers and all kinds of stuff as well. But yeah, that's the way I sort of look at that. Because, I mean, let's be real. The information, the details, the resources, they needed to stop the review bombing would have been to deliver the game that they were supposed to be delivering. You get what I'm saying? So, yeah, but I don't think he meant that. I think he just meant, help us deal with it. We know it's bad. Give us resources to deal with it. And Bobby's like, no, we don't, because I don't care. Yeah. Anyway, there's more comments. So Andy then goes on to say, moderation of Steam was put on the community team, not a function of my community, community at Blizzard. Despite my refusal to want to expose members of my team to that level of toxic content posts, when asked whose decision it was to launch on Steam with no additional help, Bobby, this is only one example of the culture Kotick bred at Activision Blizzard, shit flowed downstream, usually landing on the lowest paid and most overworked individuals. Management was too busy reacting to the wildly vacillating direction and decision that made zero sense. At the end of everything, player experience worker meant nothing to C-suite and executive leadership. It was all about that quarter's earning call. And it totally was, right? Blizzard, they were obsessed with material impact. If anything would make their share price go down, it was super bad and they were not going to, that had to be deflected in some way. Now, we've seen this as fans of Overwatch, where Overwatch would suddenly have a certain update would hit the game or some news would drop at a time where Bobby wanted to deflect something else. And it was not great. Overwatch was used as a punching bag by Bobby and it was horrible to see. But this is indicative. I mean, it's kind of crazy to me to read this because at the time, Activision Blizzard, it's $1 billion company. You would think it would be able to build teams out that could handle this. Overwatch, it's $1 billion franchise, whichever way you want to look at it. It's worth a lot of money. It's worth having teams of people to deal with this stuff. And yet, here you have the person who was the head of the community team saying, we didn't have the resources, and Bobby didn't even want to give them to us. Now, I'm an Overwatch content creator. I mean, the Overwatch content, creator management team, community management team, it's 3 people, 4 at best. I mean, that is not enough because it's not just about content creators, it's community management as well. It's all of that. These are the people that go out there and collect the sentiment of the player base and then disseminate that back to Blizzard so they can make decisions. And yeah, just wildly overworked. It really isn't great. But again, this is one of the things that I hope changes with the Microsoft acquisition. Anyway, let's move on from Andy because Andy's made these comments. And I'm sure there'll be more of these comments in future from different people. But there's a couple out there already we can kind of look at. So I'm just going to jump over to this. So this is Batrick. I apologize. It says, eat shit, Bobby Kotick, you pathetic ghoul. Waste the millions you didn't earn from people whose talent and light you will never understand. Now, you might be thinking, this is random. What you show me here, Sty? Well, this is a senior game designer on Warcraft. Yeah, so that's what they think. Then we've got my wonderful chum, Hame, dropped a tweet and basically said, happy for the folks who worked at Activision Blizzard who can hopefully find some healing and closure now Bobby Kotick is gone. Too many putting hopes on it being an immediate magic wand for any changes they want for their favorite Overwatch game. Though, be real, folks, which is true, and that is a very good point. And I kind of touched on that a little bit earlier on in the video, I guess, but this is something we need to be aware of. Recently, I went on SVB's podcast, and if you guys didn't catch that, I essentially said it's going to take probably 5-6 months for any of the stuff which is Activision Blizzard Bobby Kotick stuff to finally get out of the system. Game development is difficult and it takes a long time to develop stuff. So stuff that's in motion, it's going to be hard to just stop that. Maybe they're going to carry on with it. And so maybe we start seeing changes sort of midway into next year. Although, honestly, I would like to see changes immediately in January. I would like to see, the team unshackled. But, that is copium and hopium of the highest degree. So we need to sort of be a bit chill. Anyway, responses to this, and this is what I wanted to highlight them for. So Captain Planet works in Overwatch. So he is an analyst for Overwatch gameplay and business insights. Incredible. And yeah, just glad we had folks like you hang around for this long. So a developer, an integral member of the team, happy, that people are there seeing this through with them. They're sort of similar to us in a lot of ways. They all love this game. So yeah, and then we get another comment as well. So Anna, I believe, is a character artist. Yeah, she's a character tech artist on Overwatch, and says, we'll do our best to make a great game. Things aren't perfect in any big game studio, but we, the ones burning the midnight oil, will keep at it. We've got another comment here from another Blizzard developer. This is Brian Bedford, who is the senior character artist on Play Overwatch, and says, this is in reply to Andy Belford's tweet, says, Jesus, I wasn't aware of this. Overwatch 2 community team is an ironclad shield for so much on behalf of the rest of the T4 crew. Hope you guys are enjoying a much-needed break. I mean, maybe he's not aware that Andy's no longer part of the team, because it seems a bit strange to say that. To him, however, it might be he's just generalizing the team there and saying, have a break. Because you should. Community managers, you should have a break. You shouldn't be at work when it's Christmas time. Get off Discord. So, yeah. And then things get a bit weird. So this is Greg Street, Ghostcrawler, obviously worked at Blizzard, famous for World of Warcraft, then moved over to Riot, did some work on their unannounced MMO, now has got his own studio. I think it's Fantastic Pixel Castle, I want to say. In fact, I know it's Fantastic Pixel Castle. Yeah, there we go. And they're making a new MMO. So he's got a crazy Bobby story. And we're just going to go for this because it's one of these weird things that some unhinged billionaire would do. Now, it's not a negative story as such. I mean, it kind of is. But it's just weird. You couldn't make this up. So he says, I'll share a Bobby Kotick story. I have a few. I cannot 100% verify this happened since it came to me from a dear friend, but I have no reasons to doubt its veracity. It stars donuts. My friend led a group on the WoW team. One of the things they would do for team morale was to invite executives to come visit their team in a casual setting. Usually this was someone like Mike, referring to Mike Morheim, one of the co-founders of Blizzard. Obviously has left the company now, has their own development studio sort of funding thing on the go. Anyway, but one day they invited Bobby. To everyone's stunned disbelief, Bobby said yes, but on one condition. He has just bought a new donut making machine and wanted to make the team donuts. This sounds wholesome, right? Dear reader, you are probably imagining a donut unit the size of an air fryer or microwave, something that sits on a counter. Oh no. Oh no. Bobby had recently acquired something like an industrial Krispy Kreme unit. It was massive. This machine had infrastructure. It traveled about in a semi, one imagines, with highly trained escorts and perhaps armed guards. And Activision Blizzard Bobby Kotick, Activision Blizzard King, what am I going to... Bobby Kotick was going to bring this machine to the Blizzard campus. Many discussions ensued. Principal among those was the power draw. One does not plug these units into a standard USA 120-volt outlet. I do not know what they require, but in my mind, something like a Tesla supercharger. Well, I guess if you're in the UK, you'd require something called Phase 3 power, which is not in residential property. But I mean, Blizzard's head office I think it was a factory at one point. Maybe it was wired for it. I don't know. Anyway, goes on to say, there were logistics about really thick extension cords and how long they could stretch and how to avoid pedestrians from tripping over them. Then there was the question of the hundreds of PCs in the building with, dev teams making armor and quests and sparkle ponies. That's a dig at the WoW sparkle pony mount as well, which I think made more money than StarCraft 2, which is get me out of this world. And but the donuts never happened, or if they did, oh, hang on, no. I don't know if someone finally had to say no, or if the Irvine company, who owns all the things in Irvine, including the campus that Blizzard leases, had to be invoked. So basically, Irvine is a company. It's also a city, but it's owned by a company. It's weird, American things. And yeah. But the donuts never happened, or if they did, nobody invited me, which is also a possibility. Bobby did visit the WoW team once or twice. He told us he wishes we were faster and less expensive. Nobody is shocked there, which I understand to be his trademark, but in fairness, was also probably objectively true of the WoW team. Again, this is ultimately not my story to tell, and that's why I posted it on Twitter to get impressions. And if I thought my friend might share, I would have reserved it for them. But today, when we are remembering the tenure of Bobby Kotick, it seemed worth sharing. Yeah, /thread. How weird. I mean, that's such a... I've got that much money. I'm so disconnected from reality. I'll make donuts for you guys, but actually I've got a literal semi-truck or a lorry, and it's just a donut machine, but it draws so much power, we can't plug it in. So we're going to spend loads of time working out how to plug it in and then ultimately not plug it in. And that was a good day at work. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Disconnected from reality. Crazy. Okay, so what I want to do now is just sort of look at what the reaction has been to, mainly to this tweet, because this tweet was the one sort of picking up a lot of the, I guess a lot of places were picking this up, like, oh, Bobby, you know, there's a developer going crazy, although Andy was a community manager, although they're still part of the development team, you know, so the term dev can, I guess, be used from anyone who works on a game, essentially. You know, Q&A, they're developers, community, they're developers, everyone's a developer, right? So, yeah, we've seen the tweet. But this is from PC Gaming on Reddit. It's not from an Overwatch-centric Reddit. And there are a couple of these posts up, on, I think on R Gaming, there's one as well. And they all sort of have this same... This is the this highlights the issue Blizzard have got. And this is why it's crucial when we go into next year and Blizzard start their Microsoft journey, right? We start seeing a change in the way they handle the messaging around Overwatch, because it is undeniable this game has taken an absolute battering with its public image and all of that over the last, in fact, since October of 2022, when the game launched, and then into 2023. Obviously, we're coming to the end of that now. It's just taken a battering, like an absolutely massive battering, and they need to repair that. So we're going to be eagerly-eyed watching what they actually do, because this is the problem. While it was probably review bombed, I hate the trend of devs immediately pointing to bad reviews and claiming it's all review bombing. This game failed hard on several fronts, screwed paying customers of Overwatch 1. They deserve negative feedback. And I mean, that's valid. Look at this comment here. Bobby's a piece of shit, but this trend is of blaming everything on Bobby by a lot of these devs on Twitter is pandering. Now that he's gone, does that mean games are going to massively change direction for the better? Less shop bullshit, actual changes that the players want? No, absolutely not. And now, who will they blame for their terrible management and game design choices now? And that's interesting, right? Because the issue with Overwatch is, you know, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, the game, even if you ignore the balance of the game is still very unique, and it is great in what it delivers, the hero fantasy. You know, maybe you relate to a hero or you want to play a certain hero for whatever reason. You get in the game, you've got the superpowers of that hero effectively. You're playing together in a team. It feels awesome. There's nothing really like it. Tons of game modes, tons of maps. You know, everything looks great. Wow, this is awesome. You don't really care about the balance, but what they've got there is a game. That's unique, and that's the draw. So the game is good. But then on the other side, you've got everything else attached with Overwatch. You've got its image, you've got its monetization, you've got the way, well, I guess the way it handles its image as well. Everything. And that's sort of like the product. And it's just not very good. And this is something they need to fix. So I'm going to end this video with this thought. In January, we're going to find out about some monetization changes coming to Overwatch 2. I think that will be a point in time where we'll be able to almost identify what they want to do with the game, because the game's monetization is simply designed to make as much money as possible off the current player base through FOMO and through frustration. It's horrific. You've got to think we don't even have basic stuff like the premium currency in the Battle Pass. Even Fortnite has that. A bunch of other games have that. Yet Overwatch 2 doesn't. Why? Because they don't want to give the Battle Pass away for free. They want you to buy the Battle Pass. Look at what we've got in the game right now. We've got a Winter Fair additional micro mini event Battle Pass with its own currency, which is all time locked, time limited, and will convert into Overwatch credits, which isn't the premium currency, because I'll know we can't give that away. It's the credits currency, which can buy Overwatch 1 cosmetics with. And there's a very crazy conversion rate of tickets to that currency. It's all very confusing, and it's pointless, and it's stupid, and it's terrible. Then we look at things like pumping, and they've been doing this a lot recently, pumping out recolors of skins. That is very, it goes back to what Greg Street says. Let's make more with less and make it faster. That's what Bobby wants to do. That's exactly what skin recolors are doing. The amount of effort required for a skin recolor is drastically lower than an actual skin that is designed from the ground up. So you can effectively make more money for less effort. Even though the legendary skin, let's say, which would be made for whatever hero from the ground up, might make more money in the shop, takes longer to make, more development time, more cost. Not as easy as a recolor. And this is the issue. Overwatch is sort of designed for... It's designed in a way that it's almost rewarding... I don't want to say bad development, but it's rewarding bad practices, and it shouldn't be doing that. And I am worried that it sort of pushes the team into a direction, conditions them into that direction where it's going to be hard for them to step out of that. But we're going to find out in January. And I do want to go into this year optimistic. I don't want this to be doom and gloom. I'm not a doomer by any stretch of the imagination. I want them to succeed. And I think this year could be a big one for Overwatch 2. I don't want to get too over the top. I don't want to get crazy. I haven't actually spoken about esports at all in this video, which is another element of what happens in 2024, which could be a drastically bad element for Overwatch 2, don't get me wrong, with the people involved that could be running that stuff. But what I will say is the way to build Overwatch esports is to build it organically from the ground up. It's to let it grow itself. That's how it grows. You can't artificially make a game, an esport, overnight and make it worth billions. That is impossible. And obviously, Overwatch had the whole Overwatch League fiasco, which just completely crashed and burned. Yeah, but we knew that was the case anyway. I think most people did to begin with. A very, maybe the first season, people were kind of behind it a little bit, but super difficult that was ever going to work. Obviously became apparent teams weren't making money, but whatever. We're not going to go into detail on Overwatch League, but that's something for next year, right? What's going to happen with that? Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. I am actually looking forward. I'm going into the start of 2024 quite optimistic about this game, and I hope we start seeing some really good stuff. And I want to see the development team 4. I want to see them just like unshackled and able to deliver unique and great Blizzard experiences back to us again, because Blizzard has been languishing for a long time. But it's not going to be easy. This is going to be super hard because the damage to that image is bad. It needs repairing, and we're going to have to wait and see what they do. All right, everybody, thank you for listening and watching the video. Do let me know what you think about this in the comments below. I'd like, actually, if you could sort of review the year of Overwatch this year. How well do you think it did in 2023, or how bad? And what do you think is going to happen in 2024? Do let me know in the comments below. I will be checking them. All right, guys. Catch you lovely lot on the next one. See you soon.